What's up guys, it's me, Jeremy. The Duskblade of Draktharr is a new assassin-based attack damage item that brings an interesting passive that's a little bit comparable to that of a Zed ultimate, and I got a chance to mess around with it a bit on the PBE, so I'm here to answer just how good is Duskblade of Draktharr. If you enjoyed the video, don't forget to hit that like button, and if you don't enjoy the video, please click the dislike. And if this video hits 10,000 ratings, I'm gonna buy myself some Chinese food. Anyways, let's get started. So the Duskblade of Draktharr is a new item that at the time of making this video costs 3250 gold and gives 75 attack damage, 5% movement speed, 10 flat armor pen, and the unique passive of basic attacks on an enemy champion apply Nightfall on a 2-minute cooldown, where the Nightfall effect is that after 2 seconds deal physical damage equal to 90 plus 25% of the target's missing health, and if you get a killer assist on the target before Nightfall ends, the cooldown is refunded, building out of a serrated dirk from 2 longswords and a BF sword. And with those raw stats, for my calculations, the item is 99.2% gold efficient, not including the passive, which is actually really good value when we take into account how insane the passive actually is. The passive is essentially an attack damage version of DFG in the form of some kind of like a mini Zed ultimate. It gives any AD champion that builds this item insane burst on any squishy target, but because of the percent health scaling, it also gives you the power to burst down tanks that was pretty much non-existent before due to the changes to Last Whisper. That's probably the general design idea with this item, to be like an assassin replacement for the old Last Whisper maybe, but I have to be honest here and say that I'm not entirely sure that I agree with the design of this item. It's essentially an attack damage Deathfire Grass, but better honestly, especially versus tanks, and DFG was removed from the game for being unhealthy design. I mean, I can kind of see the design of wanting an item that makes assassins better versus tanks, and it's probably being made as a way to improve the itemization of AD assassins and AD casters, which you do have to admit is actually a little bit lacking compared to some of the other roles, especially when it comes to killing tanks. However, burst damage is a very risky form of design when it comes to anything in League of Legends, as the past has shown, and that's essentially what this item brings to the table straight up. On any attack damage champion, not just assassins, it brings a really ridiculous amount of burst to their kit. The AD champion of choice that I personally chose to test this out with was Jarvan, just because I enjoy playing him I guess, and when playing him in a solo lane he has a decent amount of burst. And one of my games specifically really showed just how much burst this item really can bring to the table. I'll start playing the clip now, but as you can see, I'm super far behind. I started this game out 0-4, and actually I didn't hit level 6 until about 11 minutes into the game. And there's no doubt that I got dumpstered in lane in this game. I played badly, and I got punished, and it was no one's fault but mine. And although I was able to pick up a couple kills from the roams after, my CS, I mean, just look at it, it's abysmal. But I'm still able to jump in and completely one-shot the enemy AD carry. And not only do I jump in and one-shot them, I jump into an ambitious fight that is pretty much 1 vs 3 or 1 vs 4 even, and I miss my EQ combo, so I don't actually get my knockup, and they still die almost instantly. Heck, I didn't even use Ignite. And if you take a look at the in-game chat, I think you might get a little bit of an idea as to how frustrating that was to play against. I mean, honestly, by missing my EQ combo in that exchange, I would personally say that Kalista probably outplayed me by dodging a key piece of my combo. But honestly, me killing her there didn't take much skill at all really, and she had pretty much no chance to outplay me. Now imagine if I was actually fed or just went even in lane. I mean, it's just ridiculous. Typically on an assassin, or really just any role where your job is to deal damage, if you go 0-4-0 in lane and have literally 7 CS and are level 4 10 minutes into the game in a solo lane, well, you probably aren't going to be playing League of Legends for the rest of the game, and for good reason. I mean, you probably don't deserve to have an impact being that far behind. I mean, if you did that on an AD carry, or maybe on a jungler, or most solo laners, really just anyone except for a support and maybe some of the high utility champions, you're just going to be completely useless for like 30 minutes. But that's exactly what happened to me in this game, and because of the item, well, I was still able to one-shot my opponents who went even or won their lanes potentially. Because the passive procs on the first auto attack automatically though, it's a little bit awkward to build on ranged champions since it can prevent you from poking with your auto attacks. So I will say that it's a much more of a melee oriented item, but the cooldown reset aspect is really forgiving in a fight. And although I can't deny that the Last Whisper change was a pretty big nerf to assassins, and although I do think that assassins need better itemization, don't get me wrong, it's just a little bit tough to agree with the design choices of Duskblades, specifically like the fairness of the idea. I mean, the thing is that the kind of champions that want to build this item don't really need that much help trying to burst people down most of the time, so by adding this improved burst aspect to it, it makes the burst combo of those champions just so fast and so powerful that it really hurts, if not completely removes all forms of counterplay, and just makes it impossible to react once someone jumps in on you and is using this item. One thing I will say though is that the build path kind of sucks, since having to buy a BF sword in the lane can make things really awkward depending on how much gold you have when you back. And in addition, an item like this could honestly bring a lot of life to some awesome off-meta builds. As well, there's a lot of potential to accidentally waste the passive by auto-attacking a champion out of like habit, I guess, to try and poke them down, but at least in the time that I played it, the item honestly just seems really strong. But the strength of the item, it's not what's important, because, I mean, it can get nerfed, there's a balance patch every 2 weeks, things can get toned down. Rather, my main concern is that the item is just unfair. To be honest, when it was removed, Deathfire Grasp was strong, but it wasn't really overpowered, it didn't define the meta, and it was only being built on a few select champions like Ahri, Veigar, and Annie. But they still removed it because the item was unfair to anyone playing on the receiving end, whether they were squishy or tanky. And at least in its current state, Duskblade of Draktharr is an item that not only has a similar design, but I would see it completely dominating the meta. Maybe I'm missing something here, but at least in its current state of being on the PBE, I can honestly see this item just completely changing the meta to the point where there's practically no reason to play an AD carry anymore, because an AD champion with burst, who's ridiculously far behind, can still one-shot an AD carry that's fed. Or at the very least, people will play AD carries that have burst damage and build this item on them. But, you know, now that I think about it, that could be fun, I guess. Or at least it might be for a short amount of time, just seeing the meta completely turn its head for a week or two until this item gets nerfed. You know, people playing like Double Bruiser in the bot lane and some other crazy strats, who knows? I mean, honestly, a boatload of champions can make use of this item, not just a select few like what happened with Juggernauts or Cinderhulk. But I'm really cautious for how it's going to play out on the live server, and in the meantime, I'll be practicing my solo lane AD Jarvan just to be safe. And that's just about it. Here are some of my favorite comments from a previous video where I asked what your favorite change from patch 6.2 was. For a chance to be featured in a future video, leave a comment about what you think about Duskblade of Draktharr. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys next time.